Welcome to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. Welcome to a new week here on the Peak. Of course, this is our Business and Culture Mondays. We always start with back to work at the beginning of the week. So happy to have you joining us here. There's a lot to talk about today, especially, I don't know if you know about this, because it's hard to find these things out because it just sort of seems like people don't want you to know. But our legislature decided that things were so important that they needed to meet on a Sunday. And so up under the Golden Dome yesterday, pretty controversial, upsetting a lot of people, especially our elected representatives who are effectively being silenced on issues. And so we're going to be getting into that in the headlines segment. Want to let you know that I believe, yes, are we streaming? Yes, the technology is working. If you want to see radio on video, because that's really what it is because we're doing a radio show here, and that's what we focus in on. But if you'd like to see us, or you're just, a visual person, you can go to our live stream on Facebook, which is the Peak News Media on Facebook, or on YouTube, the Peak News. So who are we here at the Peak, as we keep stating this vision over and over again until you all get it and decide to get involved, is, well, basically, I've known, because I've been in the media for decades, that they're lying to us, or they're leaving things out, or whatever. And finally, over time, I think everybody on all sides of the political spectrum have lost trust in the media, and we cannot sustain that. We can't have a free society where we don't trust the people who are supposed to be bringing us information. That's untenable. We can't do that. So rather than checking out, I decided I needed to check in, and I can do here on the local level what, nationally. National's great. I love national news. I watch and listen to news feeds all the time. Too much, actually. I get to blame all that waste of time on my profession, but really it's a waste of time. What can we do here locally? That's what we should all be thinking about, in my opinion. Where can you have an impact in your family, in your neighborhood, in your community, in the school systems? Maybe you're a business person. You have impact that way. Maybe through your church. I don't know. But I think we all feel empowered to a level locally. And whenever we get outside that area, we're like, I can't do anything. I feel like that every time I step outside El Paso County, pretty much. I just I don't know what to do. I don't know. But inside this county where I live, I feel very powerful. And I hope that you do too. And we want to encourage you to do something. But if it has to do with media, if you're a storyteller, you want to get, help us tell stories, we welcome you to do that. We're not only a news organization that seeks to say the quiet stuff out loud, ask the questions that aren't being asked, say the things that aren't being said, but we actually invite you as the citizens to take part in this. And I hope you find that refreshing. We just graduated our first group of citizen journalists officially in our class, and we're asking you to take part as a citizen journalist. We have young people, great internship program that we're expanding. That's great. We have business sponsors. So if you're a local business person that goes, wow, we need this, then please help support us here at the Peak by becoming a sponsor, and of course being a guest. You can come on and be a guest if you're interesting enough. We have certain criteria for that, because there are a couple million people in the area. We can't bring everybody on. But if you have a story to tell in some way, we'd love you to join us. Go to thepeak.news / whatever for citizen journalists, for sponsors. We have all of those pages on the site. We have, as our guest today on Business and Culture Monday, museum curators of the Money Museum, director and curator Doug Mudd, and assistant museum curator Carolyn Turco. And of course, we're going to be talking about money and this hidden gem of the Money Museum that we have here in Colorado Springs that is known outside of the Springs. And, like a lot of things here, we don't know what's going on in our own town. So Doug and Caroline.
Yes.
Caroline.
Hey, you is fine.
Welcome to the Peak.
Thank you for having us on.
And we're going to be talking today about what's going to happen to our money and what's the history of money and understanding these things, because of course with the tariffs and crypto and everything else, we want to know that. And these are experts on money. Lastly, before we go to the break, I want to promote. We do events around here at the Peak, and also for years, because I'm a Messianic Jew, as it's known, I've done a large Passover here in the Springs, and we're doing one on April 17th at the Pinery at the Hill downtown. Going to be a really awesome event. April 17th, not the night of Passover, but during the week of unleavened bread. It's really cool if you're a person of faith. Fun time, good for the children, faith affirming. But the deadline for signing up is this Thursday, April 10th. So go to thepeak.news/events for more information. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to The Peak, and we'll be right back. Cool. That's the open. Okay, now let me make sure we have 4 minutes now. Let's see. We have this transgender stuff. We have the building article. And do you have an article over there that I don't? Was there one on the Golden Dome?
I think I have this one.
Thank you very much.
What are you guys doing? You guys
Good.
enjoying it?
Yeah.
This is Seth, one of our interns.
Hi, Seth.
Yeah. Yes. I'm running the soundboard. Question: which classes are which?
I think
I want to get you your.
there was mine and Caroline's, and then so
Yeah,
if you're
we
sitting,
sat-
Mine's on the far inside.
if you come in, if the door's here, it was one, Caroline, and Doug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank
from
you.
the door, yeah.
And then today's rent is about, do you see my text about that?
No.
The coverage means utilities, but kind of against in a way of just economically how much they charge. And they
Okay.
charge
Okay. So, and do we have a timing on that?
I don't have
Okay, get that to me, please. But you have a half hour to do that. So, okay. Thank you, Zach.
yours was more forefront, right?
Yes, mine's front and to the right. Chaim's is left. Doug's is
Or
back
just,
to the right.
or just wash them real quick and bring them back.
Yeah.
Golden Dome.
None of us have COVID at the point.
Yeah, God, let's hope not. I had noro a couple weeks ago. That was fun. The norovirus
Oh, yeah.
or flu or something. I don't know what it was.
Okay, we got about 2 minutes.
Which one is which? At this point,
Well, we're not. I mean,
because you're doing.
yes. But I think this is going to be intros, and then I think you're going to do.
So are you guys, am I going to you for the legislature stuff or bring you in on the second thing? Am I?
The legislature stuff,
That's all
that
you.
would be you.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
I just don't want to throw to you and
No,
get a blank
appreciate that.
there.
Right.
So, so again, because it's radio, it shrinks us down. So, like with a
Yeah.
presence that's sort of over the top, because it'll sound normal on the other end. So if it feels a little foaming at the mouth, it's good because the passion comes through.
Thank you.
The other thing is all emotions have to be vocalized. So if it's like, oh, that's, or just whatever, like radio theater kind of thing.
Sure.
If you'll see me talking with my hands, but it's all about vocalizing it, right? So just think about that because it makes it a more dynamic thing.
Absolutely.
I already told you about the wrap it up. This means 30 seconds, which I'll give you on that. Otherwise, this just means like land the plane, hand it back to me. If you hear music, that's my 30-second warning track. I need you to finish up and get it back to me so I have time to throw to commercial. And otherwise, if you see me hold up a finger or two, I'm giving you a time budget, not telling you to stop.
Like a 1 minute.
Like,
2
hey,
minute.
yeah, do about 1 minute on this.
Right.
Got
it.
Okay. Got it.
Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer, it's Business and Culture Monday, and we're talking money with curators of the Money Museum here in Colorado Springs. Did you even know there was one? Doug Mudd and Caroline Turco. Before we get to the headline segment, which we're doing next, I want to do a shout out. You just heard this commercial for Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. They're one of our new sponsors, just started a couple weeks ago. And in fact, they're owned by it's owned here in Colorado Springs, the franchise, by Roland Rainey, who just won for city council last week. So I always like to, full disclosure, all these different moving parts, but it's great because we're local. And so we know everybody and everybody's in business and all of these things are good. But as part of this promotion, and if you want to do this, get a radio show because you can do this kind of stuff. Part of it is because, when you sit behind a mic too long, you get pretty flabby, is part of the promotion is that I'm going to work out at the gym and sort of do shout outs and report on that. So I actually have my second one today. If you like boxing or any kind of activity workout, it's really, really awesome. So I suggest I think we're putting some pictures up on social media, and you're hopefully going to see me transform as I work out a couple times a week at the gym. But it's really good. It's boxing and fitness, and there's a coach, and it's high energy, and you're in a class. And anyway, go to Mayweather.fit and look for Colorado Springs and check it out. You can go in for a free workout. But root for me because this thing is kicking my butt right now, and trying to get through the workout. But that's good. That's good. And thanks for Roland for bringing that to town. So we have a couple articles today, and we play this Dirty Laundry song, this Don Henley song at the beginning, because the media is always looking for that, and we don't look for that. We don't want to tell bad stories, but when something happens, we have to call it out. And the legislature, which has been meeting for months up under the Golden Dome, is obviously very liberal, progressive. It's dominant Democrat. And the way that things are being handled up there, well, I'll just say this. They decided that it was so important, this HB 2512 bill, that they met on Sunday. Now, I know they should meet 5 days a week. They meet on Saturdays sometimes, but bringing people in on a Sunday, why? And, of course, there's no time for people to get together. Of course, people who are religious and go to church, that's not a really good day for going up there. In fact, we know Scott Bottoms. He's a pastor. He's supposed to be in his church on Sunday. But what happened yesterday is they passed a bill. They didn't pass a bill, but they did a reading of it, and there's going to be other readings. So this is why we let you know, regardless, you can figure where I am on the issue, but more to me, it's just how is the legislature conducting itself? Because these things, payback is a you-know-what, and when we can't operate like this, we have to think, what happens if the tables were turned and I wasn't in power? Would I think that this was okay? And if the answer is no, you got to say no. And also, supposedly, they're representatives, which means they're supposed to be representing us. And what we keep hearing, and we even seen it, is they're shutting down discussion on these issues to just a couple of minutes so that our elected representatives, the people who go up to Denver with our vote, don't even get to speak on our behalf on these issues. And they're really being ramrodded through. And we saw that with the gun bills going in, that 1,000 people testify against it, and they still vote for it. And so here now we have, and there will be, just so you know, and there was also on abortion bill, because with this constitutional abortion coming into Colorado, it was so interesting to hear that constitutional abortion in Colorado has no fiscal impact. Why is that? Because the bill itself doesn't designate money. So they were able to tell you during the election campaign that it wouldn't have fiscal impact. But what fiscal impact does it have when people from out of state will be able to come here for abortions? Of course it's going to. So now the legislature gets to decide how to take your money, not theirs, and put it toward abortion that, if you're listening to the station, you probably don't agree with, and decided to do it on a Sunday. So I just want to say to all of you, read up on it, get involved, because this HB 251312, which there'll be a couple more readings of, this would make it illegal to misgender, to use an incorrect pronoun. You could actually get prosecuted for misgendering people, and children that don't have gender affirmation could be taken from their parents. I mean, this is the level that we're getting to here. And again, they did it on a Sunday. I'll move on. But please pay attention to what's going on, because it's going on in the darkness most of the time, and it's just wrong, regardless of what side you're on. I hope you would agree. So next article we have here is, so there's been, what is the Colorado Springs skyline? Well, there's a proposal, as you've probably been hearing. First, it was a 37-story building. Now it's a 27-story building, and there's more hearings on it. Colorado Springs, obviously, the developers want it there. Obviously, anybody who would be east of that and the mountains certainly doesn't want it. But Doug and Caroline from the Money Museum, Doug, you said you knew about this. This is something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, I'm absolutely passionate about it. I mean, we're talking about an unbelievable skyline that already exists. We've got Pikes Peak in the distance and all that stuff. And somehow we want to create a skyline that replicates Denver or someplace else. It's like, this is crazy. We can use the money to develop our programs, our great reasons to come to Colorado Springs besides the skyline, by doing something else.
I would argue that the lack of a skyline is one of the reasons you should come to Colorado Springs. I mean, people come here to get out and be in nature.
Of a man-made skyline.
It's our man-made,
exactly.
a man-made skyline. There's no need for it here. And I would argue that it actually is taking away from the reason most people come. But I think that's, again, it's about making money versus cherishing what's already here and creating community instead.
Right, and they've done some things that have been good, creating the soccer stadium in downtown, but they could spend some of that money to bring some parking into downtown so people can come downtown and enjoy what they're trying to build. This is one of the conundrums that we've got, where we're making decisions to get rid of the natural wonders that we have and not supporting the actual buildings that exist.
Last article is regarding Golden Dome Missile Defense Project could bring investment to Colorado Springs. This is out of the Gazette. President Donald Trump's vision for a Golden Dome to protect the nation from missile attacks could bring significant investment in Colorado aerospace companies, of course, because we're so dominant out here. And so in talking about this, I'm a dual citizen of Israel, American Israeli. I was born in America, but dual citizen. And I lived in Israel during the Scud missiles coming in with Saddam Hussein. Of course, that what's now called the Iron Dome, and they're moving into even lasers now, is something that's been pioneered in Israel for good reason. You don't have much time with an incoming missile when you live in a place that's smaller than New Jersey, with enemies surrounding you. And it's been incredibly effective. And but it's very expensive. It's like $50,000 for each of these, which is why for each missile that goes up. So, I mean, of course, it protects lives and it's invaluable, but they're looking toward lasers. But what do you think about this of, America, and obviously a much bigger space to cover trying to protect America, but I would love it here. What's your take on it? We have about a minute left.
I've lived abroad. I lived in Syria, actually, just after the 73 war, and the safety that is protected by these missiles is priceless. The ability to live day to day without the fear of perhaps dying in the street somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Colorado Springs is already on the forefront of that industry, so it makes sense that it would definitely be a boon for this area. But having that kind of security and understanding that we can go to bat and then have protection for our citizens would be an essential, I think. Also, the fact that it's golden. I mean, as the Money Museum, we're loving that.
Absolutely.
Loving that.
And because it's Trump, it can't be
Well,
iron.
I mean,
it has to be gold, right?
No, it's because of us.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, considering that other than Washington, D.C., we're ground central for a nuclear attack, but we have much more time being in the center, this would be great. But I'm wondering how to protect a city this big. And I don't know that Israel has ever taken down a nuke with this thing. They're more conventional weapons. So I don't know the implications of that. But of course, our great people here in the Springs can figure it out. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to The Peak. We'll be right back. Okay, good. Good segment. Thank you. So you're up 3.5 minutes. Do you have your bullet? You're doing the Silk Road, right? Mm-hmm. So you have your bullet points? You have something or scribble something down?
I've got something.
Okay. So again, it takes me about a minute to intro you, and so you'll have about 4 minutes.
Okay.
And I'll give you 3, 2, 1, and 30 seconds so you can finish up.
Got it.
Okay. Hey, yes, sir.
I just want to let you know about the gym right before related to suitcase. So,
What? Oh, the ramp? Okay. So let me get to that page.
okay,
Okay, so what's the timing?
2 minutes and 22 seconds.
Okay. And what's it on?
We've been looking through them, and the only thing we found is CS.
Colorado Springs Utilities.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good. It's business day. It's good.
Oh, yeah, it's because
business.
money businesses is money, right? Because
Does he call out Travis at all, or
No.
No? Okay.
But he does see.
because he's friends with Travis?
Well, I mean, he was saying that they aren't like great, or that they are going to use the money as good, or it's that whole taxpayer or whatever.
So does he go against the city council board? Does he call anybody out, or
Not. It says
No.
cities. Well, they're controlled by the city, and the city's tax is from we the people, and so we should have like more say.
so? Can I just say
Taxes should get used better.
spending.
For
Spending.
okay? But he's ranting about Colorado Springs Utilities.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. It's money.
And someone with a negative thing, or like, hey, they should do that.
Okay.
Like with
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It talks about money like you guys do.
Okay. So it's good. It's a good tie-in. Okay. Okay. Yeah, a minute and a half. So we're back. Okay. 3, 2, 5, 6. Okay, 30 seconds. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The answer, and no, we don't lie to you because there's too much competition there. We figured we would take the facts and truth niche here. I don't know. It's novel, I know. It's radical, I know. But we need it because, you know, if you think about this, I heard this years ago, and it's so true. Basically, everything that you know, you didn't personally experience. Like definitely all of history, but most everything that you think you know, you were told by someone, through someone, you weren't there. And so, you know, this is why bearing false witness is a big sin. And we need to have facts, we need to have information, we need to have it in context. But the truth, the person to purvey the truth is you. So don't be lied to anymore. And join us here in the Peak and become an ethical journalist along with us. Well, we have here for the hour as our guest and co-host on Business and Culture Monday, Money Museum Curators Doug Mudd and Assistant Curator Caroline Turco. And now Caroline is going to be talking about the Silk Road. Caroline.
Well, you brought up the fact that if we want facts, if we want the truth, yes, we should be turning to our radios and to our news. But the museum world is probably the best place to find the facts and the truth. And we're coming up with an exhibit at the Money Museum about the Silk Road. And the Silk Road is a perfect examination of how the past can absolutely inform our future, and looking at money as both a vehicle and a tool, and examining the first global trade network in history. So the first thing I think is most important, the Silk Road is not a road. You won't be finding a map for it anywhere anytime soon, but it was the first global trade network that spanned all of Eurasia. So we're talking ancient Rome connecting with those Middle Central Asian communities like the Parthians, the Sasanians, the Islamic caliphates, then making their way up into that nomadic world of the Mongolian steppe area all the way into China. So the Silk Road begins because of, well, silk. Romans wanted it, Chinese had it, and kept that secret of how to make it for centuries, millennia, honestly. And it was about, supply and demand. And it was incredibly treacherous. It was incredibly exhilarating, I'm sure, to be able to see things that, there's no internet to tell you what you've been missing. There's no way for you to figure out what it is like on the other side of the world unless you walk it. So we're going to present the Silk Road. We're going to examine those cultures. We're going to look at how they used money, using their money to tell our stories, because money is a tangible artifact that really does connect you to the past. You want something? Coins can't bear false witness. They are tangible artifacts, and they can be misinterpreted, but using them as a jumping off point really allows us to examine the concept of trade, how it works, free trade versus some sort of restrictive system. You'll see that within the Silk Road. China was very restrictive, whereas Rome was incredibly free with their trade. And you can examine how each of them turned out and how the different government structures really allowed and supported trade, or perhaps cut things off and became very isolated. And those differences are something that can inform what we're dealing with today. And they're also just a fascinating look at the past and how we are who we came from. And we can go all the way back if we want to. So when you're looking at the Silk Road, it's really important to know that there are 1,500 years of trade that we're trying to talk about in this time. That's dozens of cultures with numerous religions that sometimes conglomerated together to create something wholly not real or unexpected or different. And then you also have some of the world's most influential empires, and you're looking at ancient Rome, ancient China, and you're looking at all of these cultures meeting each other for the first time. So I think when we're talking about trying to find the facts and the truth, I highly recommend that we don't just look at the news, but we examine history, because it is the easiest way to get to the crux of the issue and find the real truth.
And this is global trade.
This was global
the first
trade.
Now, what the spice? There was also a spice road, and
Absolutely.
was that along?
The spice was part of it. Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely. You're talking about getting spices from India. You're looking at getting silk from China, porcelain from China. But what's coming over from the West? Well, wine, big deal. And then you've also got things that other people wanted, like glassware.
You've been listening to Caroline Turco, Assistant Curator of the Money Museum. When we come back after this short news break, we're going to be talking about money. Where is it going? What is it? And what are the changes going to mean for you? Cool. This is just 2 minutes.
Okay.
Awesome. Good piece. High energy. Good deal. Okay, we're on segment 4, so you can be reminded of the questions. There, again, this is a 12-minute segment. So we have about 2.5-minute answers. So you're going to need to figure out how to buddy team this
Sure,
thing and
yeah.
throw it back
Good
and
at
forth
that.
to each other. Yes, Zach.
I just want to say, Caroline, you have an amazing voice for that.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
Were you even reading something? You were just talking.
I was just talking.
Talking off notes.
You have like, you could be, I don't know if you're a reporter or something. I don't know if you talk about your job. But
No, I was an opera singer before this.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
She's done
So you know about voice control.
and I have a podcast, history
Okay.
podcast.
Okay.
So it does,
You sounded
yeah.
like a good history. Like,
Well,
you really
thank you, Zach. I appreciate
Yep.
that.
If you'd like to do a monthly segment, piece for this and promote your
Okay.
podcast and stuff, we're citizen journalists, so
Yeah.
we're just looking for good content.
Good
that
content that's
represents the area. We have a format where it's about a 4.5-minute piece,
oh,
and we can run stuff because these segments in the show where you're commenting,
Yeah.
that's actually supposed to be outside reports.
Sure.
So for a year, we've been inviting people to do it. We finally ran our first class, and now they have to come up with, but we're finally moving in that direction of outside content and more, other stories related to the theme of the day, but not as direct.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So-
It sounds like it'd be very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're trying to do. It's just trying to do news with a volunteer base.
And that's a hard ask. I can
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
Especially in this economy. Did I say that?
Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to the Peak, where we say the quiet stuff out loud, and we hope that you do too. Overall, that's my encouragement to you. Talk about stuff. Be willing. Don't buy into cancel culture or political correctness or whatever decade this is and whatever they're calling it, which is sit down, shut up. Don't do that. It's un-American. We need to be able to speak about stuff, and but you need to be willing to get punched in the nose, and that's American too. The willingness to exercise your First Amendment rights. So we don't need to exercise our Second Amendment rights. So we have today. We're talking about money with Money Museum Director and Curator Doug Mudd and Assistant Museum Curator Carolyn Turco. And in a moment, we're going to be learning about them and the museum and where's money going and all that kind of cool stuff. But speaking about money, how we pay the bills around here, if you wonder, because you want to know where the money is coming from, right, to pay for the broadcast. So we pay Salem for the airtime. So it's our show. It's not a Salem show. And we're supported completely by local business owners. And we tell you, you listen to their commercials at every break, and you can go on our website and click on their hot links, and we hope that you do. Please patronize them, because these are people that, more than anything else, because we're still a startup, we're just into our second year, are saying, you know what, the media has failed us. As a business owner, just as a citizen, we need proper media, proper press. And so they're taking their money and putting it here so that they can provide this service to you. And so please patronize them. And of course, when you do, tell them you heard about them on the Peak, because that helps me out, help a brother out with that. So back to Money Museum Curators, Doug Mudd and Caroline Turco. You have very different backgrounds, as I've come to know, and yet you're both curating the Money Museum here. So each take a minute and tell us about yourself.
Well, my background is unusual in general, because I was a foreign service brat. My father was in the foreign service, and I lived all over the world while I was growing up. The advantage of that is I got to see a lot of different things going on, whether they were political or social or just cool places. And I started to collect coins as a kid because my father collected coins, and that's where my background started. I was fortunate enough to get a job at the Smithsonian Institution and started working in the National Numismatic Collection there, which is where I became a professional in numismatics. And ever since then,
That's coin collecting, for those
Yes,
who don't know what that word is.
that is coin collecting.
The study of coins.
Study of coins,
You
yeah.
have to have your pinky up.
And that's where I got my personal passion, which is what coins can tell us about history, what they tell us about how people lived and the messages they wanted to give to people of their own time and to posterity. So,
And how long have you been with the museum?
Ooh.
I've been with the museum for 20 years. I've been doing this for 38 years now.
Okay.
So
Well, and how long's the museum been here?
it's been there since 1967 is when we
Really?
opened the doors.
As I said, hidden gem.
Hidden gem. Caroline Turco, what's your background?
Very different. I am a military spouse. My husband is a naval officer, and so we've traveled around a bit, but I like to refer to myself as a Renaissance woman because for the past decade or so, I was an opera singer. I worked and lived in Europe for the most part, and then I moved on, and my husband and I moved to Japan, and I worked in Tokyo. When COVID hit, I got bored, and I had 2 babies at home and a husband who was deployed, so I started a history podcast because it kind of combined all my interests. And my passion is about spreading history and trying to find the lessons that we can learn from history to apply them to present day and to the future. And I think it's really important that we don't take away that knowledge or change the knowledge to fit our narrative. We need to go with what the truth is, and we need to examine history more frequently and not try to pretend it wasn't there.
Okay. As two people who study money, but not as economists, because that's who we're used to hearing from, right? Money policy and everything. From your perspective, where is money going? What's it becoming? We have crypto. Are we going to lose cash? Like, I mean, it's up. We got these tariffs going on. People are thinking about that. Of course, we've had great inflation over the past 4 years, which hopefully these policies are going to bring down. But right now, it's not. So from your perspective, how should we be looking at money in 2025?
Well, see, we're focused on history and the money and how it's been and how it's going to continue. One of the questions I get all the time is, well, what's going to happen to cash? How are we going to live without cash? Obviously, we've got credit cards. One of the things that's a big deal is talking about digital money and, it's replacing cash. Well, it already has replaced cash. One of the facts that's interesting that people don't know about is that there's about $9 trillion out there of ready money, i.e. money in a bank account, checking account, and all that, and money that you can get to quickly. But the money that's actually cash, we have more cash in hand than ever before, despite it seeming like we're not using as much. But it's increasingly a smaller and smaller portion of the total cash that's available. And so this leads us into that whole question of where are we going with this and how will this affect things as we go forward? There's questions about how will it affect the poor, people who don't have access to computers, don't have access to sophisticated banking, they don't have banking accounts for that matter. That could be a major problem.
I think that cash is an essential for the American economy in a way people don't think about. We are the number one economy in the world, and if you bring a U.S. dollar bill to any country in the world, they're going to accept it. Now, you have to go with the rate, but they are going to say, I know that's real, I accept it, we move on. If we get rid of our cash, if we lose that connection, that trust, it is much harder for people in countries that have very little connection to us to really register what our economy can give to them and to have that tangible connection with the economy, as well as to accept what we tell them about the value of our money.
Plus, every dollar that's used in a foreign country is a loan to the United States effectively. It's a huge part of our economy that nobody knows about, that nobody talks about, except for economists. And from the historical side, one of the things that gets me excited is the messages. If we don't have cash, are we going to have credit cards that are going to have the presidents and our founding fathers, or else the important people that have made up our history over time, like we do with our quarters now?
No, they're going to be given out by companies, and we're going to be bought and sold.
Exactly.
So is there a hopeful solution to all this? Obviously, we're not going to most likely go back to a complete barter society. We are going to want to trade these things. Whether or not this is actually money, that's something we don't even necessarily have time, because it's fiat currency. Is it actually money? It doesn't have any value. But just on this thing of that we have something that universally can be traded for goods and services. Where do we think this is going? Somewhere good, or is this where we get into this control factor, this dystopian control?
Change has always been part of money, and yes, the control factor is an issue. But it's, as money develops, it's going in ways that make it more available than ever before. But how that works out is tough.
Well, and it's cyclical. I mean, money goes up and down throughout history, and you're talking about inflation. At the end of the Civil War, the South saw 9,000% inflation. We will overcome this. It won't feel like it sometimes, but money is cyclical. It goes up and down. We've had these catastrophes before. We've had significantly worse ones. So I don't think we all need to go out and take everything out of our bank accounts, but it is important to be following what's happening in the economy and to keep that trust in cash. And I do think that the U.S. government knows the importance of the cash market, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
Right. And if you talk about crypto, you mentioned crypto for just a second. Well, crypto is not cash. It is not money in the real sense, because it is a commodity. It's too volatile to be money right now. But they're working on that. Banks are working on it. Governments are working on how to use blockchain to create a secure digital form of money.
Okay, as we finish up, we got a couple of minutes left. Tell us about the Money Museum. You said it's been around here forever, but hidden. Give us a little history and what people can expect when they visit.
Well, we're one of the best kept secrets in town. We've been around since '67. We're the result of a survey that was done amongst the American Numismatic Association's members as to where we should have a national headquarters, and they decided to put it in the center of the country, and we managed to get very lucky and have a deal made with the Colorado College campus. We pay $1 a year in rent. But
Speaking
the
of
building
money.
is ours. And the museum is a representation of the American Numismatic Association's membership, but it focuses on the history of money and how it tells us something about humanity and also about collecting and collectors. It's centered on collecting and collectors, but its mission is beyond just collecting. It's about telling stories.
It's
Caroline,
also one of the largest numismatic collections in the world. And so you can come see things at our museum that are on display at all times that are, the $5 million nickel. Well, we'll explain why it's worth that. But also, you can only see one of 5 in the world. I mean, it's so rare. So coming down to see these moments in history, both for American numismatics or money, and also for world money. Come see literally the very first coins ever made in ancient Lydia. We have all of those things, and all of that can help determine how the economy goes today. You can't be thinking you're going to impact the future if you don't know about the past.
as we're finishing up, you got a couple events coming up real quick. Tell
We
us about it.
do, yeah. Actually, this weekend, we are hosting an open house for Girl Scouts across the Colorado Springs area.
So that's April 12th.
So that is April 12th from 11 to 1 p.m. Girl Scouts in uniform and their families can come into the museum for free. And we're having a celebration about Juliette Gordon Lowe, who was the founder of Girl Scouts, and her quarter that has just premiered this month. And then bigger and more exciting for us is that the exhibit, The Silk Road, a numismatic travelogue, opens officially on June 26th. We're having a fancy shindig from 5 to 7 p.m. So if you want to put on your fancy golden shoes, come on and join us. But then you can really learn about globalization.
Okay, you've been listening to Money Museum curators Doug Mudd and Carolyn Turco. When we come back after the quick break, Doug is going to make a plea for cash. No, we're not. No, we're not doing fundraising here, but talking about the importance of cash and Doug's take on that. You're listening to The Peak. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. We're talking money. We'll be right back. Cool. Okay. So this is final segment. So I'll be saying goodbye to you at the end of this one. I have to throw to a pre-recorded segment at about 5 minutes in, so there won't be music. So when it's time to wrap up, I need it because we can't alter the other piece. But we have about 5 minutes start to finish on this.
Okay.
So what? Just quick, if I could ask you 2 questions, sort of, how and why, or what and how, or what would you want me to do to cue you to give a cut?
One of the things that brings this to the fore right now is the fact that Trump is asking for the abolition of the cent.
Okay.
And this brings up for collectors and for people who use money, well, what does this mean? How does this affect how we use money today? And
What will this do for prices?
Is this the start of a whole program? The fact that you have to round up, does that mean everything's going to cost more? That's going to make inflation worse? This kind of thing.
Okay. So I'll ask something and then pick up in the middle, ask a follow-up, and then we'll...
He also does
say
a
thank
great
you to you.
shtick about the fact that Crane Paper Company has a complete monopoly on all the paper or fabric paper that we
Okay.
use, and that's why we don't have dollar coins.
By the way, and I apologize for this, I did not give your website at the
Oh, it's-
end, which I normally do at the piece. So I'll do that at the beginning and the end of this one. But sorry about that. Missed that as we cruise to the end there.
Yeah, it's an award-winning site as far as the museum portion of it. So
Okay. Money.org. And you think it is /Money Museum, or
It is. It's /Money Museum.
okay?
Yep.
Is that
.org.
hyphenated or? Well, it's money.org.
It's money.org
forward
/ Money Museum. I don't know. That's why
It's
I think it is hyphenated.
yeah,
Money.
I think it is.
It's money-museum.
Okay. So you would prefer people just go there and look for the money. It's
Because they
pretty
go
easy
to
to find.
money.org, it's easy. It's
easy to
something
find.
You can't miss
remember, and they can get to it from there because it'll be right on the front page.
Okay, we're back in about 30. Thanks for listening to the Peak News. We're talking money on this Business and Culture Monday with director and curator of the Money Museum in Colorado Springs, Doug Mudd, and assistant museum curator, Caroline Turco. And in this final segment with our curators here, Doug is doing a plea for cash. No, we're not doing fundraising for the museum or anything else, although, you know, everything in Colorado Springs is a non-profit fundraiser. I'm involved in that too. We have a foundation. But just the fact of keeping cash. So I know this came up because we're talking about getting rid of the penny because it costs us 3x, you know, to make it what it's worth and all of that. But where does this go for coin collectors? Are they just going to be, you know, how do we collect things when it's all digital?
Well, and that is a big problem going forward. I mean, essentially, as a collector, it means the prices for the collectible coins will go up, and maybe that's good. However, you know, in real terms of how do we use money, and what does it mean to use money? There's a lot of things that come up. You know, okay, the cent, it's going to go away. Maybe it should have gone away back in 1990 when they first proposed it because it was worth more than its value at that time. It's a part of a process, and it's a process that is historical. No one's ever heard of the half cent today. Well, we got rid of it in 1857 because it wasn't worth enough to it wasn't worth enough to be used in the economy, and so they got rid of it. Now we're fraught with a little bit more politics and a little bit more social media and other things where people hear about this, and there's lots of pros and cons. Well, cash needs to stay in circulation, but it needs to be relevant to today, to what its value represents in our economy. And to do that, we have to get rid of those parts that don't make sense, the cent, you know, pun intended, and also the nickel, for example. The nickel costs us about 13 cents to produce.
Really?
So percentage-wise, it's not as bad as a cent, but it's still
ridiculous.
It doesn't make any sense in our economy in general. There are other parts of the story that go with this. For example, the dollar coin versus the dollar bill, things like this, that need to be adjusted because the dollar bill lasts for about 18 months in circulation, yet a dollar coin lasts for 30 years. Other economies have done this, and they've saved literally hundreds of millions of dollars by making sure that the dollar coin equivalent, the pound coin, whatever, circulates, and they do that by getting rid of the paper money. Well, the paper note represents about it's about 40% of the business of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, which is the authority that's responsible for it. As the director of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, you'd be insane to give up 40% of your workforce. So we have a different model than most of the rest of the world, which inhibits our making sense of our own money.
Are people still carrying money around so much? I mean, it just seems like nobody has it. Everybody's using plastic
people
or
come to the
scanning
Money
their phones.
Museum and they pay with a credit card, which is so funny. And I mean, we do have the tap, so please do come. But no, I think people aren't using cash nearly as much. Venmo, Zelle, you're using that if you're going to do little tiny transactions.
And so what do you think, as we're finishing up, what do you think is lost when we don't have the tangibleness of money?
What's lost is the history, the messaging that money has been used for ever since it was invented 2,700 years ago. The first things that made money relevant were not that it was made out of silver and gold, that was important, but the fact that you showed the kings who issued it, why was it issued. And so what gets lost is that it also, you lose the privacy of the flea market, where you go and you don't have
Right,
connections
tracked.
and
Everything's
stuff like
being
that.
tracked. You know,
Exactly.
that's that. Well, we're out of time, but thank you so much. This has been fascinating. For more information, go to money.org. That's a national site, but it's very easy to find the Money Museum on there. So go to money.org. That's easy for you to remember. And check out the Money Museum. Head down there. It's been around forever, but you probably haven't been to it. And especially checking out, if you're a Girl Scout, head there this weekend. And just for everybody else, you know, get down there and learn about money. Doug Mudd, Carolyn Turco, thanks so much for being on the Peak.
Thanks for
Thanks
having
very
us.
much, Simon.
It's been great. It's really, really interesting, and I love the coin collecting. Well, as always, we finish the program with Jim Miller, Just a Guy, and the Peak Rants. And today, Jim is ranting about Colorado Springs utilities. Do you know Jim?
Jim's got thoughts.
Yeah.
Love it.
Jim ran for mayor, and he just ran for city council, and he's like, I don't know if you remember Andy Rooney from
Yes,
60 Minutes.
yes.
So he's my sarcastic, grumpy guy at the end of the news show.
Everybody wants a sarcastic, grumpy
I know.
guy. They're fun to love and to hate.
He's the everyman. So
There you go.
And
so cool.
you need to have people like that involved.
Yeah,
Ever.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I don't want to steal your.
No. Well,
You
this
need
is
them
not.
anymore, but
I just want to make sure. Let me get you a card, and you can stick around. But we go to commercial. I finish the show, and
sure.
we're done. You're willing to stick around, or you can. It's up to you. But I do invite you, since you already do a podcast. If you want to do a special one for us or take a segment of one,
Okay.
we're happy to co-promote and things like that.
Okay.
We
That'd be great.
just want, as we're building this thing out, we're heading into 2.0, and we just want great content.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be
and
great.
and something that, you know, highlights, because generally local programs are either political or they're just community access, you know, kind of thing, and we're trying to be different and
Yeah.
include everybody and see where this goes. It's a media is going somewhere, and we're trying to figure out what that is, what's it going to be, because we can't have the professional liars, neither can we have the novice people, you know, influencers. Neither one. There's something in the middle,
Right.
you know, of people that are
And it used to be there, and I think it's just getting
Yeah,
lost in the noise.
stuff that used to be in the local paper isn't happening.
because we don't have local paper.
We don't have a local paper.
Now, the Gazette would be offended.
And the interesting thing is, like, I've been involved a couple of years ago. I was involved with a group that is trying to work in all those empty strip malls all across the city, that they're trying to get community involvement. And what they've done is bought up some of the places, the buildings, and then they're trying to sell them back to the community. So they're organizing the community, creating a focus where they can invest in this strip mall and create community events, a community store, whatever makes sense in that. And I actually got involved in it because they called it and they wanted some history about money and how it works, so that could be presented as one element to the community and get them together and invest in their own neighborhood. Which is, I don't know where it's gone.
Are you big? Do you have events down there? Like, do you do social business events or anything like that?
We have in the past. We are, we do have events for sure. We definitely have.
Because we do events, and we're
Yeah.
looking, you know, interesting places that people would want to go to, and just so we
Right.
can get together.
We don't have the ability to have, you know, our conference room has a total of 15 seats. You know,
Okay.
We can't do large events. We can do, and we have done in the past, events where we can have up to maybe 80 people or 100 people
Okay.
with.
where we use the
But it's
museum
all
as a
standing.
backdrop.
Right, but it's like you can do the sort of cocktail kind of stuff,
Yeah.
happy hour stuff. Okay, food and
Yeah.
drink. Okay, I mean, I come down and take a look, but it seems like a real interesting space.
Yeah, I think that would be really
And
cool.
we just, because local radio is supposed to have a community aspect of going out into the community, but radio is going more to national hub-based things. And Salem actually just sold its music station
Did
Q102, because that was never the core of the business. That was something they picked up over the past couple of decades. They've been around for 50 years. But they did that to pay down debt, but back to their two. But that was, of course, our one that we would do Walk for Life and all of these other things. So we as the Peak are sort of in partnership with Salem, we're sort of taking over that event-based thing and getting out into the community, out of the booth and into the
Yeah,
community.
and
So-
we're right downtown, so it's actually a really great area
Okay.
because it's really nice for people to be able to come, and we have FAC parking
Yeah,
right
we're
there.
right next to FAC and
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about that too.
Yeah, that'd be
Because
great.
I just want to get people out, let them know about the Peak, more community involvement.
Yeah,
We have
for
this
sure.
educational foundation where
Well, like we're doing the Girl Scout thing, so we love
Yeah.
doing that kind of stuff
Okay.
because museums are all about creating community within
Right.
themselves as well. So yeah, that'd be great.
we're going to be teaching journalistic ethics and media vocational training in D11 in the schools starting in August. So that's where we're moving to. We started a nonprofit foundation to train up journalists, both adults and youth, but it turned into this career training, CTE, at D11, where they'll get high school and college credit. And we're going to train up before they become activists to learn what a journalist is. And then they become an intern on the program. So they get professional internship as part of it.
I love that it's a professional internship that isn't in the same like two things over.
No,
and
it's going to be
over
putting out a news show every day.
That'll
you
be
know,
really
yeah,
cool.
you know, on the
that is
day.
great. So you get
That's a
back
really
to-
neat
Okay,
idea.
I need 2 minutes to finish up, and thanks for joining us on the Peak as we begin our new broadcast week. So happy to have you part of our community, and at least, if you don't want to be a citizen journalist, if you don't want to be a sponsor, if you don't want to be a guest, tell other people about the Peak, because we truly are a shoestring grassroots organization, and so we need you to tell people and say, hey, they say the quiet stuff out loud, and they can tune in Monday through Thursday here on The Answer. AM 1460 or FM 101.1, or on all of our podcasts. We have over 200 podcasts at thepeak.news. You're certain to find something that you're interested in. Well, let's see what's coming up in the rest of the week. Tomorrow is Government and Politics Tuesday, and we have local political campaign manager Jody Ritchie as our guest. We're going to be talking about the Colorado Springs City Council election, in which he had a few candidates in the race, and what the makeup of our city council is going to be, and also what it's like to be a campaign manager in this region as we head toward the school board elections in the fall. On Faith and Family Wednesday, Jordan Baldwin, who is our main investigative reporter here, part of First Amendment Media, and he is going to be guest hosting, covering events going on, legislation going on, including what we talked about at the beginning of the program, HB 251312, legal protections for transgender individuals, because he spends a lot of time up at the State House. We have the Larry Elder Show coming up next here on The Answer, and of course our podcast. Before I go, I want to invite you again to the Passover Seder. If you've never been to one, especially if you're a person of faith, it's a really fun event. We make it extra so. Go to thepeak.news/events. We're having it on April 17th to celebrate the Passover, but the cutoff date for registering is April 10th. So go to thepeak.news/events. For that, the Peak, we say the quiet stuff out loud, and with your help, we're saying it even louder for such a time as this. Shalom.